Hello, and welcome to another Solar Distancing. I am your host, Chris Kroll, Managing Editor of Solar Builder, and I'm joined once again by my new pal, my new partner in crime, Jeff McAndrew, the Director of Sales for Clean Energy Solutions at Generac. Hey, Jeff.
Hey, Chris, how's it going?
Good. We're such good friends, I think I finally got your title right for the first time.
No
So,
problem.
uh, so today I wanted to maybe get almost like at a case study level of how to actually approach sizing a system with a specific customer's energy bill. So I guess, right off the bat, you're working with a customer, you finally have access to, an energy bill, see what you're working with. What information do I care about? And, how does this help you determine what you're going to be doing in terms of sizing a system?
Yeah, so I guess I should clarify, Chris, when you say sizing a system, are you thinking of the battery specifically?
I was thinking, so I'm thinking of a solar plus storage system, but I am thinking about the battery maybe more specifically. Yeah.
All right, cool. So, yeah, I mean, an energy bill is the bare minimum amount of information that you really need in order to design a system for a homeowner, right? And with that energy bill, you can determine a couple different things. Obviously, size of the PV array, right? In many places, installers will just, if they know that they have 5 sun hours in a day on average, they'll take the energy bill on a daily basis, divide it by the number of sun hours, and then it gives them, an ideal system size for that customer. Um, but but I should say that the first thing that installers should do is, number one, definitely get a solar planning tool. Okay, so like our PowerPlay Clean Energy tool, or like an Aurora or a Helioscope, so that they can plug in the usage information, do roof layouts, find out how many panels they can get on the roof. That's for the PV side. The energy storage side, a lot of the folks who are paying attention here already know how to size PV systems. What they're really interested in is how to size battery systems appropriately, and it's a lot trickier, right?
Yeah.
But
Right.
there's a couple of things here. I mean, the first question we could ask the homeowner is, the first thing we got to figure out for the homeowner is, are they buying this battery for time of use? Are they buying it for backup power? I think we know that most homeowners in Florida who are interested in batteries are looking for backup power. Most homeowners in California are looking for, depending on where in California, are looking for a mix of backup power and time of use arbitrage. And with an energy bill, what you can do is get a decent idea of how much that customer is going to consume on a daily basis. Without interval data, it's not necessarily going to tell you when they're using that electricity. So you're not going to be able to perfectly size a battery for time of use unless you get much more granular data from an energy monitor, like a PowerView monitor. Okay.
Yeah.
Something that's going to give you, like, minute by minute, hour by hour data is going to tell you how much the homeowner in California, how much battery capacity they need to get from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. in San Diego, or 3 to 8 in PG&E, right?
Yeah. And so that info, how do you access that then? Like, is that something that is through Generac, like a system you have, like after you have the customers kind of like, okay, or is it easy to kind of like plug in and get that interval data to know how they're using energy basically throughout a week, a month, and a year type of thing?
Yeah, the PowerView meter by Generac is a super easy to install device, and they'll have real-time data, within minutes after installing the device, uh,
Mm-hmm.
and they can utilize that data to then right size the system for time of use. Yeah,
Okay.
so it's very easy to install, a super affordable system. Additionally, one thing I should mention is, like, our power cell platform actually comes with current transformers, with the inverter, whether you're installing energy storage or not. And the CTs, current transformers, allow us to monitor that customer's usage. So if you get a homeowner in California who wants energy storage for time of use, but doesn't necessarily know how much they consume, you could actually go ahead and install the solar system, the power cell, as PV only, use the mobile application to track their consumption from 3 to 8 or 4 to 9, and then you'd be able to just use that platform to rightly size the storage. But with an energy bill, what it's going to tell you is, hey, if a homeowner consumes 17 kilowatt hours in a day, which is not very much, a little more than half of the average home in the US, then you'd be able to say, hey, Mr. Homeowner, if you want to back up your house for 8 hours, you need a 4 kilowatt hour battery. Or if you're consuming, 30 kilowatt hours, then all of a sudden it's, hey, Mr. Customer, 17 kilowatt hours of energy storage, you could have, a little under 17 kilowatt hours of backup power. But with an energy bill, all you're going to be able to say is, all right, this is your average consumption. So when the grid goes down, this battery is going to give you this much backup power in terms of capacity. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. So the backup story definitely sounds like it's the easier conversation to have, or like you could map that out. So like the time of use conversation or demand charges, you're going to need that extra info. And then, at what point, I mean, I'd assume a customer and then even the installer don't even know what that value equation looks like right off the bat until they start really plugging in and running the numbers, I would assume, in terms of how much money could be saved based off of where the house is located, what the time of use rates structure is, that homeowner's actual load usage profile. Does that sound right? And I guess, how do you end up figuring that out?
Yeah, it's a good question, and it's an equation that requires a little bit of thinking. So if you have, let's say hypothetically in San Diego, folks were paying 50 cents per kilowatt hour from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. Every kilowatt hour that we can save them saves them roughly 50 cents from their utility bill, right? So if they have a 17 kilowatt hour battery, we can save them roughly $8.50 a day. If time of use is 150 days a year, 8 times 150 basically, right, is going to give you what your annual savings could be on the first year of that battery's life. There are a lot of little nuances there, but in general, that's how you could decide, is the battery going to make sense for this homeowner from an ROI perspective. One thing I would say is we're still seeing a lot of homeowners today who are buying batteries for backup power and using time of use to pay for the battery while the grid is up, right? So in Northern California, for example, it makes perfect sense to put in a power cell with a battery today, cycle the battery from 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. on a daily basis while time of use is imposed. And then, when the utility gives you notice that the grid might be going down, make sure the battery's fully charged, and save that capacity for backup power. Right, but those homeowners still are buying it for more than just time of use. They're buying it for time of use and backup power. They're value stacking.
Yeah, that's a great way of going about it. And I would assume I like that pitch or like that concept, because instead of, you want the backup, and it's just kind of nice. You can't really put a value in a way to someone having the ability to back up their home when they're not going to have power, but then incrementally being able to chip away and add additional ROI is a pretty neat function that you wouldn't be able to do if you were going with the generator route. Not to disparage generators, obviously, but
no, for sure. No,
it's a totally different thing.
Yeah, I mean, we can leverage time of use rates to pay for a customer's backup power battery. It's true. Yeah. And the reality is, look, I mean, if the grid is down 1% of the time, and that's really painful, you could put in this battery for backup power, but still use it every day. I mean, we have customers who aren't in time of use utilities who still power their house 24/7 from solar and energy storage, just to use the battery on a daily basis. Because if it's summertime in the Midwest, for example, and we're not seeing a lot of really strong storms, like in most cases, we have an idea as to when a storm is going to be coming that could potentially knock out power. And if there's really no threat of that, then cycle the battery on a daily basis, get some economics from it. If you have a one-to-one net metering agreement, it doesn't necessarily play out that way. But we're seeing a lot of utilities where they're imposing time of use rates, or they're reducing the value from exported solar, or they're not allowing you to export solar, right? And then, like you had mentioned, demand charges as well is huge for us now in Arizona. I mean, being able to say, instead of saying, hey, battery discharge from 3 p.m. to 8 p.m., we can say, hey, battery discharge when the utility consumption is hitting 3 kilowatts continuously, right?
Yeah. Well, so I guess the last thing I wanted to understand or dive into there is, how much does the battery size actually really change from one of these applications to the next? I mean, are we finding that there is kind of an average, like here's pretty much the battery size you're going to have regardless of whether it's backup and or time of use, or if you know you're going to do both, you want a different size? I mean, I know the equations, like we said, are kind of complicated, but are we finding like a middle ground, or what, what can you tell us about how batteries are generally being sized these days?
Yeah, so it's going to depend on homeowner to homeowner, because you'll have some homeowners who only consume like 20 kilowatt hours a day, but they want 34 kilowatt hours of storage because they're concerned about long duration outages. So no, it's totally different. I mean, I would say in California, for homeowners who aren't concerned about backup power, I think maybe more so San Diego, maybe a little bit in SCE territory. They can get away with a smaller battery where we're just self-supplying and maybe selling some battery capacity on a daily basis. But for homeowners who want backup power, yeah, you can get away with a smaller battery, but most people want the longer duration outage protection. They want to be able to power more loads in their home. So as you go from like a PowerCell 9 to a PowerCell 17, you pretty much double what you can power in the house, right? A PowerCell 17 is going to give you access to like a well pump, maybe a sump pump, lights, fridge, freezer, maybe a mini split. Whereas a PowerCell 9 is really for what we would call like critical circuits, right? So lights, fridge, and a couple outlets.
Got it. Okay, cool. Well, obviously it's a huge, it's like a complicated topic, and I think we've dissected it enough for like kind of the surface level videos that we're trying to provide here to get people an understanding of how these things work. But it sounds like to do this properly, you have to really dive in and dig and do your homework as an actual installer. So I guess our last note is, where can interested parties go to, I guess, figure out how to do this correctly, at least through Generac?
Yeah, absolutely. So Generac.com will lead you to options for getting into the clean energy space as opposed to generators. We do have awesome backup sizing calculators for generators. We also have sizing calculators for clean energy. And that'll be really useful for installers who are looking to figure out, how much battery capacity do I need to power lights, fridge, and a well pump. We can help them with tools that we have available on our website. So Generac.com/clean energy. And then search for installer resources.
And so it just was making me think, do you guys present basically multiple options to potential customers in terms of like, not necessarily good, better, best, but like, because maybe customers don't know necessarily how much they want backed up, what they don't, and because there's so many different ways to solve for X, Y, or Z. Do you recommend as a best practice kind of laying out those different scenarios and letting the homeowner kind of decide based off of what they value themselves? Because there might not be a right answer sometimes, I would think.
Yeah, it's a good question. And there's a couple different rules of thought. There's the good, better, best, right? Where you present the homeowner with all the solutions. But there's also the fear that if you give homeowners too many options, they might not actually, make the decision, or they might say, oh, I really want the PowerCell 17, so I'm not going to buy because, I'm not ready to spend that much money. But I would say my recommendation to PV installers who are selling energy storage as backup is to talk to homeowners about what they can power with like a PowerCell 9 or a PowerCell 12, and explain to homeowners that if they want to power more, or they want to power the same loads for longer, that they'll have the flexibility to add batteries in the future, right? Something that's nice about our system is like, you could start small and evolve the system as people's needs change, as opposed to needing to sell things in like 9 or 13.5 kilowatt hour chunks. You're selling battery modules in like 2.85, soon to be 3 kilowatt hour sizes. So you can really say, hey, Mr. Homeowner, I'm recommending the PowerCell platform because we can start with, the PowerCell 9 is going to give you backup power for essential circuits. It'll allow you to self-supply on a daily basis from 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. If we find that your needs change, your consumption spikes or increases, then we can add more batteries to this system and give you longer duration backup power or more time of use protection.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think that's a really cool approach, and that you are able to do that with storage. And as we go forward, storage price is likely to drop. Like as we've said before in the future proofing conversation, homeowners needs change. So having that as a capability is really cool. So, all right. Well, hey, Good chatting with you again, Jeff. Thanks for taking the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Chris. Talk soon.
Yep. Until next time, the rest of you out there, you know the drill. Stay safe, stay away, but go solar.